Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing alright today. It's just Joshua. Welcome back to the channel once again. Today I'm going to be doing my first video in my Lost Ark series. I'm going to be starting February 8th when Head Start drops, and this is probably going to be my new game for a while. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not a fan of the whole top down. It's taken me a lot to get used to it. I'm still not used to it, so if it kind of turns you away, I feel you. However, every aspect about the game, other than that, I'm super excited for. It has so much content, equalized arena, ranked arena, rating, life skilling, you name it, it's there. So here's my summoner. It's level 50. It really has nothing special, and I'm just going to be going over the basics of the skills and then showing you which ones I personally have liked in my experimentations. In order to get to the battle arena here, you can use this Song of Trixion, and what it'll do is it'll play this song, and when the song is done performing, it is going to take me to a battle arena where I can test my PvP abilities. This works out a lot better because, you know, out in the open, you don't really get to test much. And also in here, you have your full fighter's diary, which is separate skill book than your PvE one. If you don't know that, you press escape and you go to this fighter's diary. If you press K, you see how I only have 261 here. But if I go to fighter's diary, I have my full 340. So what I'll do here is talk to this, go to training grounds, and then here we can kind of pick what we want. I'm gonna just do scarecrow, and then we're gonna summon. So in our first ability, let me go back to the fighter's diary, we got magic bolt. Let me put magic bolt. I'm going to just put them all on queue one at a time, and I'm going to show you guys. Let me pull back. I don't know if I'll remember what my build is, but it don't matter. So here's magic bolt. Deals damage to the first target and dissipates, dealing additional damage to enemies behind it. The movement speed of all enemies hit by this sphere is reduced by 60% for 3 seconds. Also, these translations are good, but they're not perfect, so bear with me if something isn't proper English. Most of them at least make sense, or you can make sense of it. Also, these abilities, keep in mind the order or just the symbols or their general idea of what they do, because there's a good chance the translations when it comes to NA aren't going to be an exact match. So this is on the Russia using an English patch. So you can use enhanced mine. By the way, this is what you'll hear people call the tripods. For every 3 levels you go up, you can see here unlocks it 4th skill level, 7th skill level, and 10th skill level. So the more you go up, you unlock different tiers of these. So you reduce the mana cost by 50%. Increase the range by 2 meters, or increase the duration. Me personally, I would pick fire range. Now you can pick firebolt. The damage of this skill is increased by 25%. You can pick the element of ice. The cooldown of this skill is increased by 5 seconds. Instead of the slowdown effect, frostbite effect is applied to the opponents, acting for 2 seconds. What frostbite does is it stops them from moving and attacking. And then lightning, the critical strike chance for this skill is increased by 30%. Depending on your build, I would probably take this one, because technically, you know, you're doing 25% more damage even on crits, even though this is a chance, you know, but you're doing 25% even on crits. And then you got these ones. The range of the skill increases by 30%. When dispelled, the sphere deals an additional 80% damage to opponents located 2 meters behind the main target. Or you could pick this one. The explosion becomes circular. The damage of the skill is increased by 30%. In addition, it reduces the movement speed by enemies by 20%. I would personally pick chain explosion, So, okay, cannot be saved in this area. Okay, that's, let me see. Bear with me because I don't have it all completely started yet, so let me see. Okay, it's still using my it's actually not using my fighter's diary like I thought it would be, so I gotta actually go through here and change. So whatever. Cannot change in here. Here we go. I can change them here. My bad. Obviously, I'm still learning as well, but I do have the builds down a little bit. So we'll put this on our queue. And this is what this one does. It is just a, you can see, I'll move in a little bit so it doesn't go off screen. But it shoots and then it ricochets out after. I don't really use it in my builds, but that's what the ability does. Now we'll do instant explosion. Let's level it up to max. So we'll read here, explodes condensed magic energy right at the mouse position after a short delay, causing 4,000 magical damage. Now we have increased range. We have destruction level 1, which is essentially a CC. And then we have 50% more Wisdom of the Ancients. Wisdom of the Ancients is this stuff down here. They are some of your hardest hitting abilities. I'll get into that later. So that's pretty good, but I will personally pick range. Critical strike chance is the first one. This skill on 2 seconds stuns opponents. Its recovery time is increased by 4 seconds. So increased 4-second cooldown. And also you got to remember to alt. A lot of these are in PvE. A lot of them are the same, but I know like this one, for example, is different in PvP, so that's why I remembered to do that. And then this one I would personally do for PvP. This one for PvE. And then the time interval between creation of a clot and its explosion increases, but the area of effect of the skill expands by 30%, and the damage is increased by 50%. And then you have explosive trap. When an enemy approaches, a burst of energy instantly explodes, further reducing movement speed. So I personally would pick Great Explosion. And then we're going to just put this on our bar. And then this one's a mouse location, so let me. And then you can see there, so like I can technically be moving and like click here and then also aim and shoot. So that's I once again don't use it in my build, but that's what that ability does. Now this one I do use in my build. Let me level it up. Okay, so what this one does first off is the caster calls for a flock of birds that stream in a specified direction for 3 seconds. Every bird deals 1,500 units of damage and up to 13,000 magical damage. While using this skill, the caster can move. So I can strafe left and right while using it, but you stay facing the same direction as you're casting. Reduce mana. You can do birdie attacks no longer add to the Wisdom of the Ancients, but while maintaining this skill, the summoner is 80% likely to immediately fill one of the Spears of the Ancients, which I personally use that one. You can also use this one, but I use this one in PvE and PvP. You can use Firebird, you can use the Icebird, or you can use the maximum cast time. I personally do Firebird. And then you could do a flock of birds gets 30% bigger and wider. It now ignores 60% adversary defense and resistance. Or you could do while maintaining this skill for 0.5 seconds with the final trick, the caster will summon a large bird of the wind, inflicting 80% damage. This one is suggested most of the time, but a lot of the time you can't get off the entire skill, so I take mass flight. And then I'll show you what this one does. You hold it in. Oh, wrong button. Fat fingered the key. But you'll see here it's a holding skill. When you see this down arrow, it's a holding skill. So you hold it in. And I was facing the wrong direction, but you could see the firebirds. It is a 15-second cooldown. But you see all that tick damage. And then you see down here, now that this is filled up, I personally always use Phoenix. I feel like it does the most damage. And you'll see here, I press Z. Z is your ultimate. Every class is different. This one, every single one of these is a different thing. So just make sure you read and decide which one you want to use. And then that's the Phoenix. It lights them on fire, does a bunch of tick damage after it hits them, and hits them for a huge chunk of damage. So those are those abilities. Now let's get back into it. Spirit Rush. These are one of my favorite abilities in PvE and PvP. I use them all the time. So what it does is summons a spirit horse that rushes to the specified position, inflicting damage and knocking enemies up into the air. So what I personally do is I do Burning Gallop for the extra burn damage, but you can also do increased crit and basically a lightning effect, and then obviously, you know, reduce movement speed and ice effect. You could do when a ghost horse disappears, it leaves a magical field on the ground, which additionally affects enemies 15% from the base damage, 3 seconds. I don't use that one. Quick Horse spectral gallop speed is increased by 30%. Horse ignores 30% defense. Or you could do the Fine Weakness. I personally do Quick Horse. And then instead of one horse, the spellcaster summons a herd of 5 ghost horses. The cooldown of this skill is increased by 12 seconds. Or you can do the damage of this skill increases as the distance increases up to 100%. In this case, the horse no longer passes through opponents, but explodes when it collides with them. I personally do Train of Destruction. And then I already have it bound, so we'll show you. Let me get some distance here. So we're facing, and then there goes all of my horses. You see how they catch on fire and knock them up. So that's now that is really good to lead in the combos. So what you can do is there's multiple combos you can do, but one good one is using Ancient Spear, which I'll get to you here in a second. But you can always throw your horses, and then as soon as you do, start casting your spear. And as he's down before he gets up, Dink gets hit with a spear. And that spear is one of the hardest hitting abilities you have. So Spirit Rush, definitely in this toolkit. Now, Paul Rue. Summoner sends a spark to the indicated place, which inflicts 1600 damage and turns into Ignis. Fire elemental within 15 seconds, attacks opponents, dealing 1500 damage fire. So it keeps attacking, dealing that damage. It's a pet, essentially. Now you could pick, basically it costs more mana, but it gives you a 30% attack buff for 5 seconds after it disappears. You can do Mana Cycle, which restores a ton of mana. This is probably the best one for PvE in my opinion. Or you could do the Communion, so you get more of your Phoenix. I personally do Twilight Combustion. Enhanced Attack is typically the one I do, but you can also do Burning Flame, which inflicts living bomb on enemies, summed up to 3 times. This effect does 200% area damage. or you can do summon duration, which increases the duration of which it's summoned. And then you could do blue flame, which increases his attack speed, movement speed, and range by 20%, and he gains fire breath. In order to use fire breath, you basically have to use it again. You press the same button, or you can do fire requiem, which basically does double the damage, but it blows them up. But I use that one because why I use that one is, so I cast that one, and then you'll see down here at A, as soon as he attacks and he's within range, you could press A again, and I follow up with Ancient Spear a lot too. So watch, as soon as I hit A, it's going to chunk him for a huge damage and knock him up, and then while he's down, you can spear. Think. So that's one of the combos that I like. That's pretty much a mandatory in both PvE and PvP in my opinion. Released Will summons powerful gust of wind, knocking down enemies, inflicting 3,500 magical damage. So let's level this up. I like this for CC. This is really good when you have a bunch of mobs on you, when enemies, when melee's training you. It's a really good peel. So I personally use Outstanding Mobility, so you jump back. And then you could either do less consume mana or more Wisdom of the Ancients, but I do the jump. I use Tenacity for PvP, or you could do, it freezes them, makes it impossible to move and attack, but if they're immune to like knockback, so when they're frozen, they're immune to knockback, so it's really hard to combo with it. It can mess up combos, so I don't use that one. And then Sandstorm, this skill no longer throws opponents, but reduces their attack speed by 20%. And speed by 40% during 2 seconds is what that's supposed to mean. The use time of this skill is reduced by 20%. It's not that great, but I would probably use this one for PvE. Gust of Wind becomes a circular blow that affects an area, or you can do the damage of this skill is increased. I personally pick Surging just because it's easier to hit. You can do the other one, but you're going to miss it more often. But this is what this one does. It does that. It does an AoE around you and knocks them back. So if you have a melee on you, you can very easily use that to peel them off you and then combo out of it. That way you got a little bit of self-peels. It's a really good defensive ability. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It does some, but you know, the peels is why you use that. Now we got Carnivorous Lily. The caster summons 2 carnivorous plants for 10 seconds, attacking opponents, inflicting 500 units damage each. Now, I don't use these ones in either of my builds. Some people might, but I just don't find them that great. If you try to make like a mass pet summon build, you might use them, but that's it. If I did use this, I don't really use the mana reduce. I would use the magic boost or the summon duration, extra 2 seconds on the summon duration. So I've tested these before, and I use the Toxic Seed. Orchids spit poisonous clots at enemies, piercing through them and imposing 5 seconds poisonous effect that increases damage taken from orchids by 7%. This effect can stack up to 5 times, so it can increase 35% damage on them. It could be good, but the damage isn't that much. Like, they're fully leveled, it's only 800 damage, so 35% of that, you know, you're right around the 1200 per hit mark, and it has to build up to that first, so it's not even worth it. Hold on, let me get a drink. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Ice Seed, once again, I'm not a huge fan of ice. For like a alteration on abilities, the Orchid spit ice clots, applying frostbite, reduces movement speed by 40%. Orchids spit in self-glided clumps. That could be pretty good. I would probably pick that one over Toxic just because it's not that much of a difference. Unless you're doing PvE and you use these, then you would pick Toxic because most shit's stationary. And then Mass Summon, you can summon 3 instead of 2. And the caster calls for everything 1 Orchid, whose damage is increased by 300% and the attack range is 40%. Orchid spits stun ordinary opponents. Same thing with PvP. I would personally do tracking and then elite summon. And then we'll show you what this does here. It summons a big one, and then he goes pew pew. And so that could be potentially good, especially with the stun. But it only lasts like that, and it goes on a 13-second cooldown after that. So could work as self-peels, maybe to feed into a combo or something. I don't know. I personally just feel like with you only being able to use a certain amount of abilities, it just doesn't make it into the toolkit. Not that it's bad, just there's better. Now, Winged Spirit. This is one of my favorite abilities in the game and is one of the best in PvP, in my opinion, and PvE. So it summons an element of wind that forms Hawk at the mouse position for up to 4 seconds that deals magical damage. So let's level this. Okay, so Survival of the Fittest increases skill damage raw, skill preparation time is reduced, or mana regeneration rate is increased. Let's go Survival of the Fittest. Critical strike chance for the skills increased 30%. If the elemental deals damage to the same enemy 4 times, he petrifies them for 2 seconds. Or the area the skill is increased by 25%. I either use Wide Attack or Thunder Spirit. Personally, I do Thunder Spirit most of the time. And then damage dealt by this skill is increased by 30% and critical damage by 100%. Or the elemental attack speed is increased by 33%, and the number of attacks increased by 4. Summoner gets more Wisdom of the Ancients. You can do this one. It builds your Wisdom more. I also like this one too, though. And then with this one, we'll put it on W. And you see it's a cast, so you have to aim it. And then when you release, or when you click, oh, I messed that up. You got to hold it, and then the heart comes down and keeps gusting, which it's really nice. So that one, it's really good to peel. It'll stun people. It'll AoE all the enemies and also stun them to peel you. So it's just a really good ability. Let me reduce this. So you can see we still we're about halfway there. There's a lot of abilities, so stay tuned. I appreciate you watching. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to drop it down in the comments. I'll get back to you guys with anything. Please make note. I'm here to help, and I know it's really hard to research stuff right now, so I'm going to try to get whatever information I can get to you guys so you're as ready for launch as possible. So now back to the skills. Electric Discharge. Attack type elements. Lightning. Launch a lightning sphere at the point of location for 1499 magical damage. On impact, it turns a static field that deals 3000 magic damage every 1 second. So this actually has an ability in it that I personally really like. Actually, no, that's hold on. That's not the right one. I thought we were down further. So the one I really like is Electric Storm, but we'll get to that. Ball Lightning can now become a combo skill. It can be used 2 times in a row. Mana cost increased by 50%. The second used, the total recovery time of this skill increases to 12 seconds. I personally don't like this skill at all. I've seen some people use it. I just not a fan. Speed of the skill is increased by 20%. Rapid Discharge just travels faster. We'll use that one for whatever. Electric critical strike chance for the skills to 20%. Stuns longer. Damage done by this skill to normal opponents increased by 30%. Skills still 40% more damage on enemies immune to stun and knockback. Super current area, the duration of the action of the electrical field increases by 3.5 seconds, and the damage they inflict by 60%. It attracts opponents and creates lightning bolts that inflict damage every 5 seconds. Or the high voltage, which this skill additionally applies electroshock effect on opponents for 5 seconds, while the cooldown is increased by 5 seconds. I would personally pick the super current area, and what this does is shoots, and it does that, which it pulls it to the middle, and then so you can actually use it like that, so it only has a 12-second cooldown, or you can double tap it and go. So that does pretty decent damage, but once again, that falls into the category of skills that are good but not good enough to make it into my toolkit personally. Sticky Swamp Moss, attack type elements earth. After casting it for 0.5 seconds, summoner creates a swamp area in the specified spot, which deals magic damage to enemies for 5 seconds. In addition, reduces movement speed by 2 seconds. This is going to be one of those abilities that I personally would only use for PvE in a tank and spank fight. It's just it's not going to be viable in PvP. People just dip out of stuff on the ground way too easy. So reduced mana cost, reduced cooldown, and then extra attack power by 30%. Swamp spreads faster, increased damage done by 200%. I would take that one. And the effectiveness of the slow, it's not really that great. Swamp radius is increased by 30%. The skill further reduces the defense and resistance of opponents by 24 seconds. I'll take Swamp Queen. That's what they used to call me in high school. So, and that's what that does. That's a giant pole on the ground, but like it doesn't CC in anything, so like people would just simply twink right out of it. So I wouldn't personally use it. And like you can see, like it was a very short duration and it's still on cooldown even after I took all the points out of it. Now this little bear dude, I don't even know how to pronounce him. What is it? Marin. The caster summons Karmakula, the Guardian of the Reefs, for 20 seconds. Attacks opponents, dealing 3,000 damage. So this one's mandatory in my opinion, every build. But you can either do the aura power, increase it for 30 seconds, increases critical chance by 15%, or you can do the damage increase by 20%. I personally do the 20%. A taunt order, this is good for PvE and mobbing. You can AoE taunt all the enemies around for 2 seconds. For PvP and PvE damage, I do charge order. You hit the ability again and it deals the damage for 420% and stunning them for 2 seconds. Or, you know, this does 300% and exhausts them, but I use the higher damage and stun. And then I use Communion, which increases his life by 10 seconds. So we'll do that, and then I'll show you. It's R, and then that's what it does. It summons that big dude, and then you see how it's glowing. Watch his ability right here. It rolls and stuns, and that's and he'll just keep following people around and attacking them, and you can use that as a roll stun, and it's good for peels, and it's good for setting up combos. Here's Shatter Earth. This is a really good CC and a pretty hard-hitting ability. Attack type, element Earth. Strong earthquake occurs at the mouse position, causing 10,000 magical damage and knocks enemies up into the air. You can increase the skill damage by 15%. Turn it ice, gives some frostbite, or wears down enemies. I do Shattering Flame always. Shattered Earth over 3 seconds. Inflicting damage every second for 40% from the base. Earth is now cracks up into 4 stages, causing damage in the amount of 30% from the base. Or Tenacity. I use Tenacity for PvP, obviously. Mana cost increase 50%, but does 80% more damage. The range of this skill is increased by 50%. Damage to opponents of the rare type and lower increases by 50%. I would use this one for PvE and this one for PvP. And then let's put it on Q. Where'd my boo go? Is he over here still? Oh yeah, I see him. So it's another mouse one, and then click, and then once again that one's a good one to line up into a knockdown or into the spear. Now that we also got more ancients, I'll show you guys this Osh is I don't really like it, but it's another aiming, and you just basically slam them with your foot, and then I'll show you the dragon next. Water Spirit. Yeah, Summoner has a lot of abilities. I was debating on going through all these with you, but nobody else has really covered it yet, and I mean, I had to sit here and do this because nobody else did. While I was learning it, so I figured I'd put it all into a video and explain it. For those of you who can't play and read your own, you can kind of see every ability and at least kind of gauge it for yourselves. Water Spirit attack type, elements water, summon the Spirit of Water for up to 2 seconds. It deals 10,000 magical damage in a cone. So, what I do is, you can pick 20% casting speed. Extra damage taken by the summoner is reduced by 30%, which is actually kind of good. You can use this as like a permanent, not a permanent, but a high uptime damage reduction, or you can do mana recovery. I would personally do the DR. Releases a stream of vicious fluid, reducing the attack speed of opponents by 25% and their movement speed by 25% for 2 seconds. The last attack now deals 100% more damage and knocks back enemies. Skills deal 50% more damage on enemies immune and to stun and knockbacks. I would personally do Splashing Spirit. Aquander's life is extended by 1 second, and the damage it deals is gradually increased up to 50%, or is reduced by 50% width, but is increased his range by 100%. I would probably pick this one for PvP, to be honest. This one for PvE, but we'll show you anyways. Almost there, y'all. Almost there. So here's that, and you can see the stream, and that's what it does. So, and it auto targets enemies. So as soon as you cast it, as long as he's within range, it'll spray him. But it is, a 20-second cooldown, and it only does it for 2 seconds. So it's not the best. Once again, that falls into the category of can be good, but doesn't fit the build. So Electric Storm. After casting it for 2 seconds, Summoner covers up the selected area with a thunderous dome that inflicts 24,000 magical damage over 10 lightning strikes for 5 seconds. Less mana, quick cast, or damage taken reduced. I personally take the DR, but quick cast is also really good. Now, I typically take Vital Attack, critical strike chance increased by 50%, mana cost increased by 25%, or you can do the enhanced duration. I also picked this one. I actually switched to this one lately, and I like it more. Or you could pick the increased dome. It's not that good. Lightning strikes 33% more often, and number of hits increased by 5. Increases lingering thunderstorm is selected as the second effect. The number of hits increases to 24. I personally pick Guided Storm. The dome now moves after opponents. Lightning strikes bring on 100% more Wisdom of the Ancients, and this is why I do this. So You could see this. It's a long cast, but what it'll do is it'll actually chase the opponents for the next 8 seconds and sit there and continuously tick. And you can see down here, it'll actually continuously build up these ancients too. So you can cast that. So if you can get them in a knockdown using this ability, you can then gust them and then sit there and just kite them as that chases them around. Now I'll show you this one. You can see the guided. You can guide it with, your mouse, and here he is. So I'll do that. That's what it does. It launches a giant dragon out of everywhere. Dragon hits really hard. I do like it, but I like the Phoenix more. Okay, so we're almost done. Couple more. Shreddy. Shreddy summons a small light sphere for 20 seconds, and it follows the summoner and attacks nearby enemies. So with this one, when Shinchi is present, the summoner's movement speed is increased by 10%, and in addition, she can pass through opponents. Shinchi's fire spark travels faster by 20%. Shinchi grows in size while it is summoned. The character's critical strike chance is increased by 6%. I pick crit. Shinchi's radius of view and range increases by 20%. The frequency of his attacks increases. Shinchi's base damage increased by 50%. Shinchi's lifetime is increased by 5 seconds. I personally do Clever. And then Thrilling Light. Shinchi attacks on 7 seconds. Impose the flash effect on the enemy, which deals damage every second. While the effect stacks up to 3 times, an explosion occurs and the enemy receives 6,000 damage. While Shinchi is present, the summoner and all our allies' mana regeneration is increased by 40%. I would use this for PvE and this one for PvP. And then you could see this is what that does. Now if I run up to him, it basically just does constant damage. That's all it does. It'll follow me for a while and just deal constant damage. And then we can see, so it's going to fade here with 10 seconds left to go. So it's a 30-second cooldown. It follows you for 20 seconds, so it essentially has 66% uptime. This is a key part of Summoner's builds in both PvE and PvP. I use it all the time. It is amazing. Now, Ancient Spear. I showed you this one already. It's the big damage. So, gather magic power for 2.5 seconds, then summon Ancient Spear at the mouse location. Enemies hit by the spear directly receive 34,000 physical damage. Enemies caught in the area effect of the spear receive 27,000 magical damage. The spear explodes and inflicting 20% extra damage and knocking down opponents. Cast speed is increased by 30% or reduced cooldown. I personally do Ancient Judgment because if you need to land it, you do. This one also reduces it to slightly under 2 seconds cast time, which can be good considering most thumbs are 2 seconds. Both of these are good. This skill additionally inflicts an ignition on the enemies for 5 seconds, dealing 2,000 damage every second. Frostbite, reduced movements, and then Earth wears them down faster. I personally pick Flame, and then falling on the enemies, the Spear of the Ancients inflicts 80% more damage. Or instead of 1 spear, the caster summons 3. The damage of each of them is reduced by 20% compared to the baseline. I use this one for PvE, and I use this one for PvP. And now we'll see the damage just straight up without comboing, and that's what it does. And it knocks them down and sits there and burns them. So that's why, I use all kinds of different abilities to combo them, but that is like the move that you want to line up. And then for the last ability is the one that you should have in every build, and is Rain's Blessing. For 5 seconds, the blessing envelops the caster with a shield that absorbs damage equal to 30% of maximum health. When activated, the charm additionally knocks back nearby enemies. When the amulet is activated, the summoner instantly fills one of the Orbs of Ancients, and then summoner's movement speed is increased by 20%. I would pick this one for PvP and this one for PvE or PvP. Enhanced shield absorbs 100% more damage. Shield duration for 3 extra seconds. And then when the amulet is activated, the summoner additionally scatters along to 1 random negative effect on her and her associates in a radius. So it basically cleanses. Weird translation, but it cleanses you and your allies. I would pick the enhanced shield though. When destroyed, the ward explodes, stunning nearby enemies for 4 seconds. This effect does not trigger if the amulet dissipates after the duration expires. Or you could pick Shield of Acceleration, protects against the following control effect. I would personally pick Renaissance, and what this is going to do is you can actually take off Enhanced Shield and put on Shield Duration. And what I would do is I would use Shield Duration, that way it stays up longer, and wait for your enemies to break it. And then soon as a melee breaks it, which is who's probably going to break it, you're going to stun them, and then you can Ancient Sphere right out of it. So that's going to be a really good combo, and this one is really easy. Like, you'll just see I press the button and I get a shield. Get a shield, you can see it count down. So, and it does cover you for like 21% of your HP or 30%. It's pretty big, but it is a long cooldown, so you have to use it wisely. And then I use these Kelsions, attack type. It's basically your ultimate. It's your V button, and it hits all those lightning bolts on the outside and summons this big dude, and he's just gonna go up, and he's just gonna keep smacking people. And then he will also hit that lightning ability for big damage every 8 seconds, and like, see, it'll hit them with that and then knock them down. So that's big damage. And then we can use the Akir, or we can use these ones. The caster summons 2 Korga Brood, the Keepers of the Silver Keys, who create a Maelstrom around her, inflicting 43,000 damage units of ice. At the perfect moment, the Horga boards will freeze in the Maelstrom, inflicting 18,000 units damage and imposing on them the effect of Frostbite, acting for 4 seconds. During the use of the skill, all damage taken is reduced by 50%. Or we could do, you invoke a powerful spirit that for some time accumulates energy, inflicting surrounding enemies for 45,000 damage. Subsequent explosive attacks deal 3,000 damage. So I'll show you what this one does real quick, and it's just this, and basically it wrecks everything. So both of those are good. Once again, I still personally pick the Phoenix. It's just easy to hit. There's no cast time. It's just instant. And it's knocked down the lead up to your other attacks. So that's pretty much the entire Summoner Showcase. Thanks for sticking through. Any questions, comments, concerns, as always, please leave them down in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe if you have not already. I'm going to be maining Lost Ark. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch and YouTube. Feel free to, reach out to me, come to any of my live sessions, ask anything. I don't care if it's related to any of my previous games. Feel free. And then let me know what you guys want to see. Any other classes, any recommendations. If you're looking for a full skill build for PvP or PvE, I'm going to make individual videos showing exactly what those are. This was just a showcase. So if you're looking for an actual build that I use, make sure to stay tuned for my PvP and PvE skill videos. I didn't want this to go over an hour, but there's so much to these classes that I just wanted to explain the skills in this one. So once again, it's just Joshua signing out.